Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special holiday edition of Behind the Curtain for our upcoming live stream concert, A Holiday Special Live. Today, I'm joined by two wonderful people that I feel very fortunate to work with on the new Impact Department here at Minnesota Opera. And we're all here to talk about our holiday traditions and the music that brings them to life. But before we dive into that conversation, let us briefly introduce ourselves. So can we each go around and say our names, pronouns, where you're from, and a sentence or two about what it is that you do at the opera?
Sure, I'll start. Hi, I am Paige Reynolds. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Hey, Motor City. And I am the Civic Engagement Manager at Minnesota Opera. So that means that I manage some of our community partnerships, including part of our Tempo program and other outreach that we do.
And hi, everybody. My name is Rocky Jones. I use he, him pronouns. I grew up in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. And I've been with the opera now for about 4 years in a number of different capacities. Currently, I am the Director of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion and the chair of our Diversity Council. So I am sort of in charge of all of our internal and external equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives. And before that, I was actually our communications manager, so I handled all of our video content. So it's very weird to be on this side of the
camera. And I'm Pablo Siqueiros. I use he, him pronouns. I am originally from San Diego, California. And I am the teaching artist, in which I am in charge of a lot of our educational programs, including any in-school residencies, programs like this, like Behind the Curtain, Opera Insights, the pre-show lectures, and our creative aging programs, Opera Connections, and Voices of Opera. Okay, now that you've met us, let's dive into this conversation. So the first question that I'll pose for the group, which holidays do you celebrate this time of year? And which one do you feel most connected to? We'll start with Paige.
Yeah, so around this time of year, see, I would count Thanksgiving as part of the holidays. So we celebrate Thanksgiving. I look forward to talking about like how holidays change too, because I think we're doing an interesting thing with that one in my family. And then we celebrate Christmas and a little bit of Kwanzaa. That's another one that's like kind of shifting. And then New Year's. New Year's has all kinds of fun traditions around it too for us. So that's typically what I celebrate, along with just like winter in general, winter season, doing fun wintry things. I have a birthday in December, so my childhood was often ice skating for my birthday in December, or, doing something fun like that in the snow. So also just general, winter cheeriness. It helps when the days are dark.
One of those specifically do you feel like most connected to?
I think most connected to New Year's. Yeah, I feel most connected to New Year's, probably because there are traditions around that like have not changed, that do not change from year to year, from household to household. And it's one that I celebrate with friends no matter religion also. Yeah.
That's awesome. How about you, Rocky?
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm also a Sagittarius, so my birthday is around this time of year. So that's always fun because presents. But, we do Thanksgiving as well. We also do Christmas, as you can see from my decor here in my beautiful basement office. I am married to the ghost of Christmas present. Christmas is a very big deal around here in our house. We actually have a tree upstairs that is currently bare, another tree upstairs that needs to be decorated. And then we also, and when I was a kid, we had, friends who would do an annual Kwanzaa celebration. And so we would go over there for at least one night and hang out and eat delicious soul food and dance and have a good time. And then, New Year's, and we make it a point to always hang out with friends or have some sort of special dinner. I think now that I'm pushing 40, it's lucky if I make it to midnight, especially if there's champagne involved. But, it's usually a good time. But, I know, 2020, things are going to be very different this year. But, I'm looking forward to being able to, spend some quality time with my husband and friends and family over Zoom.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, well, no, we try.
For me, I feel like, so I'm gonna push the holiday boundary even further back to Dia de los Muertos, which is usually November 2nd. So I feel like that still kind of falls within the threshold of the holiday season. So that I really love celebrating, and I feel like I've been doing probably more of that the last few years than maybe I did growing up. Then Thanksgiving has been something that I've celebrated more so probably the last like 10 or so years. Having grown up in Mexico, Thanksgiving is not a thing. So it has been more so from my experience living here. Most of the time I will celebrate with my partner's family. So that is a holiday that I haven't necessarily spent a lot of times with my own family. Then Christmas as well, and New Year's. But I feel like because I'm not from here, I usually end up traveling a lot for the holidays. So it all sort of ends up blending that whole time, like those like week or two of like the week before Christmas to like a little bit after New Year's. All of that is just kind of like one big swath of holiday.
Yes. Being from the East Coast and living here now in St. Paul, it's just fun. Like the last couple of years, like that week between Christmas and New Year's, I call it my East Coast tour, and I just like fly to New York and just Amtrak all the way down to Richmond, and I'll be in New Year's or Richmond by New Year's. But the last couple of years, I've actually spent New Year's here, which has been a very different, very cold experience.
Definitely. Yeah. So when you think of, and I'm going to use the holiday that you each mentioned that you felt most connected to. When you think of this holiday, what does it smell like? What does it sound like? Maybe I'll start with Rocky this time.
Sure. My family growing up was pretty scattered across the country, so we weren't able to, get together very often during the holidays. So, my traditions have really kind of started since I've met my partner and his family. And so now, whereas like before, I think the holidays were pretty kind of quiet and, a little bit, I guess sedate. I don't know, I guess would be the word I would use. Now they're just vibrant and just full of people and like, family and nieces and nephews running around. Except most of them are adults, so I don't know why I said running around. But like, just wine and their family is Italian, so, sauce on the stove, a turkey, just a big loud family just sort of joking around and arguing, and you've got people watching football in the living room, and so it's just really fun, and just lots of hugs, and really 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 good food.
Nice. Yeah, I love that they include like Italian food as a part of the
Yeah,
celebration.
yeah, which I had never, like I didn't know that that was a thing. But yeah, no, it's totally like grandpa's sauce,
Mhm.
all of the stew meat passed around, and it's just like it's just really fun.
That sounds awesome. How about you, Paige? What does it
The
smell like? What does it sound like?
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind is waking up later than usual on New Year's Day because I stayed up the night before, and smelling a pot of collard greens cooking on the stove. That is the number one thing that came to my mind and my nose. Collard greens on New Year's Day are a tradition every year. I continue to do it now, even when I'm not with my family. Um, and because we cook like slow cook them for a long time, my dad, the early risers, usually already cooking them by the time I've woken up. So you smell that, you smell the smoked turkey that he probably put in there.
Mhm.
Um, and if there's a New Year's Day football game, not even if there is, so I will hear that. Absolutely, I hear that, and like my dad and uncles and cousins, and from more like recent years, my own music playing all day, and uh, I think of cleaning supplies because you clean and like get your house ready for the new year, and not just guests but for the new year. Try not to bring your old junk into the next year. So those are the things that all that I smell, that I see, that I hear when I think about that holiday. And pine for sure, because the Christmas tree is definitely still up. It'll probably be there longer than we intended for it to be. Um,
Yeah, I feel like this year, like people are gonna leave their trees up until like March or April.
I would be shocked if they
Why not?
especially like it gets so dark here,
Yeah.
especially after Christmas once all the lights come down. So I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to having a little bit more holiday cheer, I
Yeah.
suppose, for a little bit longer,
Yeah.
hopefully. Fingers
Why not?
crossed. Why not?
Build it into your decor.
Yeah.
Let's just call all of them winter lights. They're not Christmas lights, they're
Right.
not holiday lights, they're just winter lights. And so
Yeah.
that way we can leave them up here until April.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I mean, this tree is up year round. You guys know that, right?
Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I told you he's the ghost of Christmas present, and every day is the present. So,
um, for me, and I guess I'll sort of use a little bit of Christmas, but really, like I said, when I go back home for the holidays, like it really all just kind of feels like one big holiday, one big celebration. Like, yes, we do a couple of specific things for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, um, but it really we start celebrating from like the 18th or 19th of December, kind of all the way to the end of the
wow.
year. Not like grand celebrations per se, but like we're always cooking together as a family. We're always doing a lot of things. So it all just kind of feels like one big thing. But definitely one thing that it smells like. And this is, I mean, maybe similar to kind of what you were saying, Rocky, about like including Italian food as part of your holiday traditions because of your husband. But for me, it's like tamales. Tamales are like a staple Christmas food. Um, we do obviously eat tamales like at other special occasions, but it feels like one of those things that like we can't miss. We can't not have that around the holidays. Um, Pozole is another one of those dishes.
Oh,
Um, that was always so tamales were Christmas Eve, pozole was Christmas morning. And really you end up having pozole for like all 3 meals that day because it all just kind of like, you're just gathering, hanging out for all day, and there's just like this gigantic pot of it in the kitchen.
I will take it. Please give it all to me.
Although, of course, recently I've had to make my own pozole that's vegan because pozole is definitely not vegan. But yeah, so those 2 smells are very much scents that I like associate with the holidays. And yeah, I hear a lot of laughter. I hear a lot of like just lively conversation. My brother's the one that usually creates the playlists for whenever we're hanging out for the holidays. So it's usually like whatever he's picked. And he usually leans towards like more like contemporary pop interpretations of like Christmas music rather than like the classics. So I do always end up hearing something that I haven't heard before, which is nice. So yeah, I feel like that's usually kind of what I hear and smell when I think of that. And since I just mentioned music, what is a music or a specific song that you cherish most from this holiday?
Oh gosh, I actually have too many to choose from. We have staple like holiday albums that we love that have probably been played since 1993 when I was born or earlier every year. So depending on when they came out, there's a Vanessa Williams holiday album that we just love. There is Whitney Houston, Who Would Imagine a King? I love that song. It's so sweet. It reminds me of the movie The Preacher's Wife. This is what I could go on and on about. There's like a 80s kind of pop, like R&B song called Sleigh Ride that sounds nothing like the classic Sleigh Ride at all. Don't go into it expecting that. I want to say it's very like Prince sounding. I think it's by Alexander O'Neill. Yeah, okay. It's awesome. So I love finding the gem kind of unconventional Christmas songs like that for sure. And Eartha Kitt's Santa Baby has a special place for me as well. Yeah. Maybe because I just love Eartha, and her version is just, to me, it's still unmatched. Like,
how about you, Rocky?
Well, growing up, my mom, her favorite is the Johnny Mathis Christmas album. So I have that entire thing tattooed on my brain from beginning to end. And I think, lately, we have, our annual tradition where we're trimming the tree, and then we'll bring in, a CD player for some reason. But because we just have a bunch of, Christmas music on CDs. And it's just like really funny because like we'll just go through, some of the more sort of, like you said, poppy, more contemporary things. So there's like an NSYNC Christmas album from the 90s. And you just like laugh. There's, a Celine Dion one, and we'll just like sit there like, but I mean, obviously the ultimate, contemporary classic, you hear those sleigh bells, and then, and it's like, okay, Mariah, come through. It's your time. We bow to the queen.
She officially kicks off the season.
Exactly. Like after Thanksgiving, get that turkey out of here, put it in the trash. It's time for Mariah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, there's a couple of things. So it was probably confusing when I said that like I'm from San Diego, but also grew up in Mexico. So I did actually grow up in Mexico for the first like 12 years of my life, and most of my family still lives there. But I was born in San Diego, and then I spent some time there. All that aside, um, something that's kind of unique about living in border towns is that you get influenced from kind of both cultures. So having lived in Tijuana for quite some time, and then also living in San Diego, that blend of American Christmas music and Mexican Christmas music, I have some associations with both, but I feel like the one that I cherish the most is the Mexican Christmas music, which are called villancicos. And this type of Spanish songs, they historically they weren't necessarily associated with the holidays, but just kind of over time became associated with the holidays. But anytime that I hear any one of those, it's just like it transports me to my childhood. It transports me to my grandparents' living room, to like me and my cousins like doing little musical performances for the rest of the family, like that kind of thing. So I think for that reason, I end up kind of cherishing that a little bit more. Yeah, even though I did hear both American and Mexican Christmas music during most of my life.
I just love that because I think of like like Christmas plays and stuff too, and like the music that was part of that. That Whitney Houston, Who Would Imagine a King, was always part of the Sunday school Christmas presentation, which is part of why I remember it still. It would be a thing. Who gets the solos in the song? Right. It would definitely be a thing. Yes, it was a big deal.
You can't let her down.
No, no. And if the person who usually sings it, if they're not going to be there that Sunday, who gets to replace them?
Wait, I'm sorry. Like we had people competing for the Whitney Houston solo. That's a Sunday tall order. Okay.
I mean, if you see like the movie The Preacher's Wife, there's also like kids who sing it, which is why I think it's probably part of the Sunday school program. So we're going for more like the sweet, innocent version, not necessarily that you should be 8 and able to sing like Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston was able to do it when she was 8.
Whitney Houston is gifted, okay?
This is true. Perhaps I should.
Is there any part of this holiday celebration that that absolutely cannot be changed, that it must stay the same every time that you celebrate? And I'm thinking, kind of like year to year, like where you like really hold on to like one part of like the tradition of like how you celebrate that particular thing.
That's tough.
Yeah, that is tough.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think for me right now, like obviously this being like something that everyone is kind of experiencing, it's just the simple act of gathering. That like that if that's not there, then it doesn't quite feel like you're celebrating the thing. I think a lot of people are probably really struggling with that, trying to figure out like, is it safe to do so? Should I be doing this? If I don't gather with my family or with whoever you're celebrating, is it going to feel the same? So yeah, I feel like the gathering aspect is a big one for that feels like kind of can't be changed. And if it is changed, then it doesn't feel like the real thing.
I feel that.
I can, because definitely like on Thanksgiving, for whatever reason, I got to be in my bonnet and decided, even though it was just the two of us, that I was going to cook as if like everyone was coming over. Um, so we had a lot of leftovers, but we ended up hanging out on Zoom, and yeah, it was kind of just like a little weird and a little, because I don't think anybody in March was expecting for this still to be happening during the holidays.
Right.
So it was one thing, like, on Easter, for us to all gather on Zoom. But I think there was a certain degree of, it was great to see everyone. But there was still a little bit of melancholy because we weren't, in the same room. You know, doing the Secret Santa. Well, I guess we wouldn't do that on Thanksgiving, but what I mean. Doing the Thanksgiving traditions and hanging out and having hors d'oeuvres in the living room and catching up, or gathering around the table and picking names out of a cup to see who sits at what table and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, I guess I would agree with you. I guess it's probably the gathering part.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Paige?
I say the same. The gathering, and I find this year, in lieu of gathering, some of the other traditions have become more important. I mean, it's an unusual thing, unusual year where I just kind of learned to value certain traditions differently. It was really, really important to me Thanksgiving to just make like foods that I grew up with, ancestral foods, things that my parents ate and that they taught me, that my grandparents did, that I know my great grandparents did. And that itself is just like a really important thing that makes me like feel connected to a long line of people, like not just those who are living and who I would normally be able to gather with. So that's super, super important to me. And even we did a similar thing, meeting up on Zoom for Thanksgiving. And one of the things that, it was weird, but one of the things that came up is like my mom and my auntie comparing their dressing recipes. Like, what did you put in yours? What did you put in yours? It was so cute and so funny, but I was like, it's important. Like it holds our culture and our stories, and so
what were some of those dishes that you made?
Ooh, good question. I made a sweet potato pie for sure. I've been learning to make them vegan. I don't know how my grandmama would feel about that if she were here, but
with like vegan shortening, or
no, I tend to use coconut.
Oh, okay.
And that helps a lot if you use the canned kind, not like the liquid that comes in a carton. You want the nice full fat canned coconut milk. It turned out pretty good to me.
Well, that's funny you brought up the food, because I actually did the same thing. Because even though, we didn't, do like the whole sort of traditional, Thanksgiving and Christmases when I was growing up, like we still, as an immediate family, would gather and, make our dishes and whatnot. And so that was really, like, I made a whole thing of mac and cheese. I got on the phone with my dad. I was like, give me your recipe. Like, I made a sweet potato pie too, both of which made it to Instagram, if I do say so myself. Thank you. But yeah, like that was for me, and being able to share that with my partner was like this way of just sort of bringing, Virginia, here to Minnesota a little bit, and just sort of, taking the sting, I guess, off of like not being able to be there this year.
Yeah.
Y'all want to hear a quick cool story about how I made my Thanksgiving meal special?
Of course.
So my grandparents on both sides are from the country. And, generations, great migration and all that, people moved up to cities, but people still have a whole lot of country tendencies. So that I didn't necessarily always get to learn, living up north in Detroit. So this year I happened to get the opportunity to learn how to process sheep and goats. By process, I mean the whole process. from wrangling them yourself all the way to butchering.
That,
So
that doesn't sound vegan.
not vegan at all. Not vegan at all. But it was such a moment for me because those are the kind of things that I've been like missing out on, not being around family, not getting to spend summers in the country. A lot of my elders in our family passing like when I was really young. So when I told my family about it, it was like, that's so cool, Paige. What you did? What? Oh, like it was kind of like your grandparents would be proud kind of thing. And then I put like some of the goat that we did ourselves inside the big pot of greens that I made for Thanksgiving. So that just felt like extra, just like delicious on a soul level this this year to like do things in the way that like probably my grandpa would have when he lived in Georgia, like had to go outside to get a sheep or goat, and they're real into those things. So being connected to my food in that way, like this year, is just so important.
Yeah, you need to save me some greens next time.
Huh?
You need to save me some greens next time.
I got you next time. Well, you know what? We took a lot home from what we did at the farm. So, I got something in the freezer. I could cook it for you. I'll leave it on your porch.
Okay.
How have your holiday traditions changed over the years? And I guess you can pick kind of whatever span of time was appropriate to you.
Yeah, I think mine changed just in terms of, my traditions were always very small. And now being here in Minnesota and being a part of this humongous family, I think at first it took like a little bit of getting used to, because it was just kind of like, hi, hello, I'm new. Nice to meet all of you. To now, however many years later, just really feeling like part of this, extended network of folks. And, which is not to say that I don't, still feel connected, to everyone back home. And, I do try and make it a point every year to go out and, spend time out there too. But like, it's like this first time, like this really sort of like homey family Christmas by the fireplace that you like see in like TV specials and things like that. And it's just really cool. It's just really nice to, I get why people like it.
I would say for me, they've changed in also like who I spend it with, and not for me not connected to a partner, but I've been like a very what's the word, transient in the past few years, lived in different places in different cities with different people and roommates, and a lot of holidays, especially for something back to back like Thanksgiving and Christmas, I may not be home. So it, for me, is the biggest change has been celebrating with chosen family, wherever I go. And, every time is a little different. That's kind of the cool part about it. Cause like we're talking about right now, everyone has something different that they bring to it, but it's always been a lovely time. I've been doing that since pretty much college now, like a lot of holidays, chosen family, something we make up with how we want to celebrate and observe. But it's really beautiful, and just I still feel very like connected and supported, and yeah, valuing my friends in that way, the same way I do family, since not living at home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What
Yeah,
about
I
you,
feel like
Pablo?
it's interesting because I've always wanted to really like New Year's. And there are some things about it that I really enjoy. I like the self-reflecting aspect of it and kind of the kind of fresh start, kind of turning a leaf kind of a thing. Um, I do enjoy that aspect of it. And I've always had like really grand plans for what the night could be. Never pans out.
Never.
Never lives up to the expectation that I set for it.
Because it's like, we're going to go to this party and then we're going to go to this, bar or whatever. And then like, what do you mean it's $150 cover charge? And then like, you're wondering like, where do we go? And then like, it's midnight and you're just like, out on the street somewhere. And it's just like, okay, cool. Now I'm tired.
Yeah.
The one
And
place
I
you
mean,
can
like,
make it into is super crowded, and you got the one friend who's already too drunk before midnight and ready to go home. And
like I
So
said earlier, Bucky, like it's just like it's so hard to make it to midnight now.
I have a friend who lives in Richmond, Rachel, and for a couple of years she would always host a New Year's party. And that was awesome because it was just like, okay, we're just gonna be in our friend's house, surrounded by like all of my friends from college, a few friends from high school, and it's just like, all right, and we're just gonna party and we're just gonna stay here and it's gonna be great.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So if you can find something like that, then New Year's is awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
mm-hmm.
But to answer the question about how my holidays have changed, um, I think for me it's been interesting because I feel like growing up I have this association of Christmas being a time that we spent in my grandparents' house for many many years, and they've both passed away almost 10 years ago now. But when that happened, it sort of left that void of like, who's gonna host now? Like, who's gonna take on that responsibility? Um, and we kind of traded around. With my mom has three siblings, and so each year that we would kind of host that at a different house, but it never quite really felt the same. Um, and as I got older, as we all kind of aged, a lot of my cousins started having like their own families, and so they kind of like went off and did their own thing, and the gatherings just kind of started getting smaller and smaller each year until there was one point in which my mom, my brother, and I were just like, let's just do our own thing. Like, let's just figure out a new tradition. And so we decided to go to Costa Rica for a week.
Okay. Can I come?
So that was probably what, like 5 or 6 years ago, somewhere around there, when we did that. And it was just like, it was great because like it was something entirely new, something entirely different than we had ever done. We didn't feel any sort of like obligation to like see certain people or hop from gathering to gathering or anything like that. It was just like, no, we're just gonna do our own thing. And honestly, that was probably one of the best things that has improved my relationship with my immediate family. Not that it was ever bad, but it just brought us that much closer together. And then from there, now, as like my brother got married, and so we're starting to now include more people into some of those traveling plans. And so it feels like we're kind of like rebuilding what was there before, but like with our new families. So that's kind of how things have evolved for me. So speaking that I just kind of talking about a new kind of holiday tradition, what is a new tradition that you would like to start?
You know, for me, I've well, kind of two. For Thanksgiving, I want to be more intentional about observing Indigenous Peoples Day or Native American Heritage Day,
Mhm.
maybe even eventually instead of Thanksgiving. I think the things that are most important to me and my family about Thanksgiving can still be there while also, you know, helping to shift the narrative of the holiday and um, honoring Native peoples. We can still gather, we can still have food, and we can talk about what it means to live on Dakota land and and consider, you know, talk about the past, present, and future of Dakota people. We can still do all of that. So I look forward to changing that. And Kwanzaa was very like, I don't want to say not observed at all in my household growing up, but I want to make it a bigger thing for myself, especially since I'm like more separated from my family more often for Christmas. And to me, like the Christmas feeling for me, I always wanted to carry it right into Kwanzaa, but other folks in my immediate family weren't as hype about it as I was. So now I'm just like, okay, great, we're gonna celebrate Kwanzaa in my house for me. So I love it, and I just love the it feels like a good time to like recenter just the principles for each day, like creativity and cooperative economics and faith, and reviewing those principles together just feels so like I don't know, very, I just grounding is the best word I can think of before the new year, and just makes me feel really proud of my heritage as well. So yeah.
That was awesome. What about
Yeah,
you?
I don't think I have a better answer than that. You know, I guess just with the 2020 of it all, I mean, I feel like things are going to change going forward. And so I don't really know exactly what that looks like. But I do hope that, you know, to Paige's point, that we are able to sort of shift the narrative a bit when it comes to Thanksgiving, you know, and to really, because, you know, I feel like the primary thing that we all sort of need to give thanks for on Thanksgiving is the fact that we are living on these stolen lands. And so, you know, however that looks, you know, whether it's, you know, doing a land acknowledgement at the beginning of the meal, or just turning the entire day into, you know, a celebration of, you know, Indigenous folks. You know, I think that's an important way for us to just sort of shift our thinking in all of us, every single American. And then, yeah, I would love to, you know, like I said before, when I was growing up, we had some very, very close family friends. My dad's best friend and his wife and his kids would celebrate, you know, all the days of Kwanzaa. But they would really like invite everyone over they would pick, you know, whichever of the principals was really speaking to them that year, and invite everyone over. And, you know, we would light the candles and, you know, have some time for reflection. But then it was just a big party. And, you know, there was just amazing food and like fried chicken and greens and mac and cheese and all the stuff that you want. And I feel like bringing more of that energy, you know, sort of into my life here in Minnesota and connecting with my Blackness in that way, going forward is something that especially like given this past year that we've had, especially the past year that we've had here in the Twin Cities, you know, it's a wonderful way to sort of connect with our ancestors, dismantle systems of white supremacy, all that good stuff, and like have some really good food with some really good friends and family. So I guess those are the two things for myself that I would like to work on.
Yeah. And I love that kind of both of you kind of touched on this, the like honoring Indigenous peoples during instead of Thanksgiving doesn't necessarily mean that you can't gather, that you can't you know, reflect on your gratitude for the things that you have. And you can also include this as a big part of that. I really love that. Now, my new tradition it's going to seem really frivolous after all that. But I feel like I've always really enjoyed the concept of like a Friendsgiving, especially when we think about like, yeah, like the idea of a chosen family, and like who are the people that you're choosing to have in your life to spend these special moments with. I would love to extend that to other holidays that we maybe normally associate with spending it with biological family. So things like a Christmas or other religious holidays, or things of that nature that we normally think like, oh, this is family time, and we don't really have a friend association with that, or the chosen family association with those. So what, like, thinking about like what could a sort of Christmas celebration look like with just chosen family. Yeah, I think that would be a really nice intentional thing to try.
I don't think that's frivolous at all. I actually think that's really lovely, because I know for me, there are a number of holidays where my family and I couldn't get together for whatever reason. And so I'm just like sitting alone in my apartment, like on Thanksgiving, like eating takeout and watching TV. And then, you know, it'd be nice to hang out with a friend, but they're all, you know, at their family celebrations. So I think, you know, like, I think that's lovely, you know, to just sort of spare a thought for the folks who, you know, don't have, you know, families to spend this time with, the people that we love, who bring so much to our lives. But, you know, this time of year is really, you know, can be really dark and really painful. You know, when you're not, you know, exactly in the place where, you know, you want to be. So I think that's a lovely sentiment, Pablo.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I think it's something should be normalized. One of the best Thanksgiving I ever had was a friend who invited me to his family's Thanksgiving because I was in DC and couldn't go home. Man, that Thanksgiving was so fun. With his like loud, funny Irish family, and like having different foods that like is not part of our traditional foods. I think it's beautiful, and like we need community, especially now. Especially now.
For sure. So because we are an opera company, and why not start it at a little opera to all of this? So in 2011, Minnesota Opera premiered Silent Night, which was it's a story of the Christmas truce of World War I. That, of course, has gone on to have performances all over the world. But it's one of the few holiday stories that we have in the operatic repertoire. So is there another holiday story that you would like to see as an opera? And because I wrote this question, I have already thought about it. So I have one to share.
Well, why don't you go ahead?
So part of why I was extending my holiday season all the way down to Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, was because I was expecting to answer this question. So one of the stories that I think would be lovely, or a similar type of story, would be Coco, the Pixar movie, which tells this kind of the story of Day of the Dead, which is celebrated in many Latin American traditions, but obviously my personal experiences with the Mexican tradition of it. Just because I think it's such a beautiful way of celebrating and honoring the people who are no longer with us in a really joyful and colorful way. That it really, it's not sad. It's not really a day of mourning per se. It really is just like a time to share stories, to share your favorite memories of these people. You make their favorite dishes to kind of bring them back to the living world on that day. Obviously, that's a time to put up pictures of all of your relatives, it doesn't even have to be relatives, but most of the time, and it ends up being that way at home. But yeah, it's just like a really joyful way of, since both of you kind of spoke a little bit about like having a connection to your lineage or to your ancestors, I think that's a really beautiful way of that the Mexican tradition does that. So yeah, I always just kind of feel a sense of connection to my family, a sense of connection to where I'm from, to my culture. And I think visually and orally, it could be a really beautiful way to put something like that on stage, a story of that holiday on the opera stage.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pixar.
What came to mind for me, though it necessarily wouldn't be about the holiday itself, Haitian independence is celebrated on New Year's Day. Mm-hmm. And I would love to see an opera about that. I would love to. That's also, maybe I even should have mentioned that as something that I want to make a part of observing holidays for me. Like, for one, the story of the Haitian Revolution is just like epic. For me as a Black person, like celebrating that moment on New Year's Day, and in addition to the New Year, is like also honoring that was a big moment in Black people being free across the West in general. Not that we were all freed, but that was a moment of, oh snap, like, look, it's possible. So I would love to see an opera about that, and just that day also, being the dawn of a new age, and for the Haitian people and Black people in general, and a celebration of that. I would love to see an opera about that. Oh my gosh. Maybe it's like an opera about the Haitian Revolution, and like it culminates in like New Year's Day kind of celebration. That would be dope. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Well, go with me.
Take us there.
So, when I was living in DC, my boss at the time would always have a Christmas Eve celebration at her home, and her daughter and I were good friends. And so we would, after the festivities, we would go back to her apartment with some friends for the after party. And we would always end up watching the greatest Christmas movie of all time every year, which I think would be the perfect opera, especially if we want to sort of dismantle some of the elitism around this particular art form. And the greatest Christmas movie of all time is obviously Die Hard.
Die Hard. I was like, if I say it, are y'all gonna look at me like
come on. I could just see some like lyric tenor just like, oh, just wrapping himself up in just like yippee-ki-yay. And like, you know, the scene at the end with Hans Gruber like falling from the building and all of the paper, and then John McClane and his wife, like, you know, there's plenty of roles for, you know, folks of color and women. Well, one woman. Okay, that's not so great. But anyway, Newark's initiative, Die Hard, done.
I can hear Mrs. McLean's aria right now. I think it's genius.
Absolutely. Like that
I think
weird
we need
guy
to talk to Ryan and Preeti,
who's like trying to like, you know, his aria would be just madness. You can cut this part out.
No, I think we need to talk to Ryan and Preeti about this.
I will happily write the libretto.
Okay, so I have just one question left for our program today, and that is, what do you wish for other people during this holiday season?
Man, you know, I feel like this season's going to be tough for a lot of people, you know, who can't travel, who can't see, you know, the folks that they love, who can't participate in those traditions. And so I just really wish everyone just peace, you know, that just making sure that we all just reach out to the people, especially the people who seem like really strong and who have it together, because they're the people who need that love the most. Well, we all need that love, and just health and just safety, you know, just making sure that we're all just staying safe and wearing our masks. And, you know, if we do go and see folks, that we, you know, stay distanced and bring lots of hand sanitizer and all that good stuff. But mostly I just wish everyone just peace this year, with the hope that, you know, next year around this time, you know, we can get back to some sort of semblance of normalcy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about you, Paige?
I would say I would just hope for everyone to just feel seen and loved in some way, whether you celebrate the holiday season or not. I think this is a harder time of year, especially if you live in a place where, you know, there's an actual winter and you get less sunlight and all of those things. And especially this year, we're not going outside as much. And I would just hope that, you know, everyone feels some sense of community, like they belong somewhere, like someone loves them and has their back. And I would also hope for people to, like, I know it's not the hardest thing, especially, I mean, not the easiest thing, especially in our culture, to reach out for things like emotional support, or just say like, hey, I'm feeling lonely. So I would hope for, I really hope for people's courage and vulnerability to do that. Because I think most of the time when we do reach out, like we really do have each other, or there's someone who got you. There's someone who can fulfill that need. So yeah, that's my hope for everyone this holiday season.
For me, I really hope for rest for everyone. This obviously has been an incredibly difficult year. And even though it might seem sometimes that like, okay, we're staying at home, we're not doing as much in terms of like going places or seeing a lot of people. It has still been an incredibly exhausting and taxing year on so many different levels. Maybe not as much physically for some, but probably more so physically for others, especially like first responders and things, people like that who are working harder than ever. And so, yeah, I really wish for rest for everyone, whatever that means to any of you. Because yeah, we all could use it in some way. Well, that concludes our conversation. Thank you both for joining me today and for doing this. And thank you all for joining us for this special holiday edition of Behind the Curtain. We hope you enjoyed learning about our holiday traditions. Please let us know in the comments some of your answers to the questions we asked here today. For more information on the upcoming live stream concert, A Holiday Special Live, please visit mnopera.org. We hope you have a joyful and restful holiday season. Thank you all. Bye-bye.